Welcome all hunters, anglers, trappers, and shooters to the only fish and wildlife conservation podcast that goes behind the scenes of the business of conservation, the Connecting with Conservation podcast. Our podcast is hosted by John Gassett from the Wildlife Management Institute and Jim Cucaruto of the Outdoor Stewards of Conservation Foundation. John and Jim will talk with experts from all sectors of the conservation arena about their passion for conserving the great outdoors. So please welcome our hosts of the Connecting with Conservation podcast, John and Jim.
Hello, everyone. This is John Gassett again with Connecting to Conservation. I'm here with my co-host, Jim Cucaruto.
Hey, John. How you doing? Hope everything's going good. You had a nice big turkey dinner here recently, but things are going good here, I know, with the Connecting with Conservation podcast, and just about to get better because today we're excited to have kind of a long-time industry buddy of mine on, Tom Taylor. So, Tom, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, thanks, Jim. It's been 20 years. It just turned 20 years in the industry, and loved every minute of it, I think. And been here at Sig Sauer for the last 10 years. I spent 5 years at Mossberg and 5 years at Smith & Wesson, as you know. Actually even spent about a year at Remington back in the early, what was known as the Freedom Group days. So overall that adds up to about 20 years. And prior to that, I spent about a little over 20 years in the consumer products industry at a small soda pop company out of Atlanta called Coca-Cola. So spent a little bit of time there. And yeah, I think that's about it. Like I said, I have grew up in Texas in the outdoors a good bit, and then kind of got away from it to some degree because of all the job constraints and so forth, working in the consumer products space. But once I got in the industry, fell in love with all of shooting sports, both competitive shooting. I don't do that as much as I did when I was a little bit younger, but certainly have loved to hunt over the years and have hunted all over the world, all kinds of animals, and loved every minute of it.
Well, Tom, we're really glad to have you on. It's good to meet you. And I'm especially excited because Sig is actually one of my, and I don't say this for all of our guests, but it's one of my favorite companies. I love your product lines. My wife is a huge Sig fan. She kind of got me pointed that direction back when we got together, that she loves shooting her Sig.
Well, every man needs a smart woman, so.
That's right. And, so yeah, she got me into that, and I really love your product line. But tell us a little bit. I mean, I know y'all, used to people think of Sig as historically as kind of pistols and sort of military police type pistols, but y'all have a tremendously diverse product line now: rifles, ammunition, optics, suppressors. Tell us a little bit about what all you make and your thought process there.
Yeah, I mean, I think it largely was known as a handgun company for many, many years. A lot of people don't even know that Sig, a portion of Sig, is actually the second oldest gun company in history, continuously operating. Everybody knows that Beretta, I think, is 500 years, one passion, but J.P. Sauer and Son is right behind Beretta in terms of still operating, founded in 1751. That's the J.P. Sauer and Son side of Sig, and then Sig, which is Swiss Industrial Group, was founded in 1853. As part of a transportation, wagon wheel, train cars, sort of things. And then in 1859, bid on a Swiss Army contract and won that and went on for years to make guns. And the Sig and Sauer came together in 1975 on a handgun collaborative, and that's been the company. So Sig, as we know it today, Sig Sauer, which was Sig Arms, came to America in 1985 and was just a overpriced import company, and was really struggling for many, many years. When our current owners bought the company in 2000, it was a $40 million company losing about $8 million a year. And I was educated in Texas, as we discussed earlier, with your Georgia background and my Texas background. So we've got a little football game coming up this weekend. But no, it was not a good operation. The import prices were too expensive to make them competitive in America, and so the company really struggled. In 2004, Ron Cohen got here, and that sort of began the beginning of what we know as modern Sig. And I came here in 2015, and in that period when I came and just before, Sig already had handguns and rifles, but expanded into ammunition, optics, suppressors, even air guns, trying to get into the youth market and other air gun sports and so forth. But and then some of the military contracts began to come. The P365 was launched in 2018. The 320 was back in 2014. Military contract in 2017 for the handguns. The machine gun, rifle, suppressor, and ammunition contract came just last year in 2023. Multiple optics contracts with the U.S. military. We've won every ammunition and suppressor contract for just about the last 4 or 5 years. Not a lot of people know that. So, yeah, SIG has kind of quietly become the largest firearms manufacturer in the world. And when I came, we were still chasing some of the notable brands that you would typically think of as the largest. But SIG has leapfrogged most of those companies, or all those companies, and now is the largest firearms manufacturer in the world. So it's been a great ride. One of the cool parts was when we really got into the hunting categories. That was really nice for me. Even though some of our sister companies, Blaser and Mauser and some of those companies, Sauer made hunting rifles, and we were able to use those. We didn't have our own Sig Sauer hunting rifle in terms of what that's become in our company. So we've launched since then the cross rifle, optics line, hunting ammunition lines, hunting suppressors, and so on. And then last thing I'll talk about is something we feel really strongly about is not only do we sell all those things, but we also have Sig Sauer Academy. And I think we're the only firearm company in the world that has a comprehensive training facility, 140 acres here in New Hampshire, probably the nicest range and store, museum, conference center complex in the world for a gun company. And then we have SIG outposts around the country. We have instructors spread around the country doing all kinds of training. And we think it's really, really important that not only do we just sell stuff to people, that those people get educated. Because as you guys know, a lot of people go down and buy a gun and they think they've watched a couple cop shows and they're good to go. And we believe strongly that you really need some comprehensive training if you're going to handle a firearm and all the things that come with that.
Yeah, I tell you what, John and I were talking about, man, we got a lot to talk about in a half hour, and you covered a lot of it right there. You guys are one of the few, maybe the only few, or the only manufacturer that pays the trifecta in excise taxes. You got to write a check for handguns, you got to write a check for long guns, you got to write a check for ammunition. So, and that's kind of what connecting with conservation is about. Like, people don't realize, people listening, that, a big chunk of your, you got to write a lot of big checks every quarter. Again, being, I think, about the only company, maybe there's other, I can't think of any right now that pay all three, but.
Now, there was a short time when Vista had Savage rifles
Sure.
and federal ammunition, but I don't, at this point, Colt CZ would probably be a company that, not as one brand, but the organization that owns those companies probably does. But it's whatever it is, it's a very short list.
Yeah. Well, we've done things together where we've kind of shown people firsthand, from your staff or from state agencies, kind of where those checks go and why you continue to write them. From when I was with NSSF, we had done a +1 hunt with, I think, a few years. No, we had done the Field to Fork with a deer hunt for some of your staff and QDMA. And then I think last year we did work with Non-Typical Outdoorsmen and did a pheasant hunt with some of your staff to try to expand the participation in the outdoors. But again, we always want to try to tell that message about how conservation is funded.
Yeah, it's been nice getting some of our employees involved and some of the ones that didn't hunt, as you know, through the program, and that was nice to get them out. But it's been nice to see a little bit of a rejuvenation of shooting sports. I know during the COVID and all the violence that happened during that time period, there was 25 million new gun owners, and I think some of that has grown into the hunting and shooting sports because. Like I said, it's unfortunate that a lot of those people bought their gun and they didn't really do much with it other than feel good about themselves, and they had it in the drawer beside their bed or whatever at home, but not a lot of training with it or putting it to use, so to speak. But it's been really nice to see, like I said, hunting is growing to some degree. Shooting sports, competitive shooting, those things are all growing. And, it's been nice to think that as SIG has grown, to the size it's become, and you and I have run the math before on some of the numbers, and it's we're very happy that we're able to contribute to the degree that we are with states building ranges, all the ranges that are being built, because a lot of people I think it's just about the hunting side and more land to hunt on and access and those kinds of things. But it's also nice to know that a lot of the states have engaged by understanding the growth in firearms purchases and ammunition purchases, that there needed to be some place for those people to train. And I think that's been a great byproduct of the growth of the firearms industry and ammunition industry over the past several years.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned the shooting ranges, because we've known for a number of years it can be a bottleneck for people that don't own land or don't have places where they can shoot on their own. And we know that states have struggled with trying to keep up with that demand, even though if you look at the excise tax breakdown, about 80% of the excise taxes that are paid in are non-hunters. They're recreational shooters. They're, for lack of a better term, hoarders. They're putting ammunition under their bed or whatever, or they're buying new firearms and sticking them in the safe. But, there's a tremendous amount of that those conservation dollars are paid by the excise taxes of people who are not ever going to go hunting. So now that's not a 1-to-4 ratio of hunters to recreational shooters, because we know recreational shooters tend to buy more than one firearm, and they buy a lot more ammunition because they burn through it. So that does tend to push that number a little higher. But, we did get the Shooting Range Improvement Act through Congress a few years ago, which lowered the match requirement for states to 10% non-federal to that 90% of the excise tax dollars. And I think we're starting to see some results from that. But I just wanted to ask you a little bit about your hunting line now, because, SIG's recently, dipped into the hunting, mainstream. And, if you look at the numbers, that's sort of a small piece of the pie compared to recreational and competitive shooters and personal defense. So what are your thoughts on that? I mean, we're glad to see SIG coming into the hunting industry, because, that's near and dear to both of our hearts. And that's really where the match for all that money comes from, those hunting license sales. So just tell us a little bit about your hunting line.
Yeah, I mean, it was something that, since the day I got here, it was something that I wanted to do. Ron Cohen, our CEO, had wanted to do it. But I think one of the things that he feels strongly about when we get into a category, that we don't just say, okay, we're going to go make the same gun or the same optic or the same ammunition as the next company. He wants to be innovative, and oftentimes we'll wait. I mean, that was one of the beauties of a P365. To sidetrack, just give you an example. I mean, when he didn't want to build just a pocket pistol, he wanted to say, what do we need in the marketplace? Hence the 10-round magazine. Hence everybody in the marketplace now has high-capacity compact pistols. And so, in the hunting category, we looked at standard or traditional bolt-action rifles and just felt like that wasn't the right path for us. So we launched our cross rifle, it looks like a chassis rifle, but it's not. It has a one-piece receiver, so that makes it kind of unique. And to be honest with you, we sold a ton of those rifles in just two calibers, 6.5 Creedmoor and 308 for 3 or 4 years. Our engineers got really snowed working on Army contracts and that sort of stuff. So we really had a lot of demand for those two calibers. And only last year did we begin to expand. And we got a 300 Win Mag, we got some Magnum calibers. We expanded our medium actions and just started finally growing calibers and doing some different variants of the cross rifle. Our hunting ammunition, we learned a lot making the U.S. Army sniper ammunition. Not a lot of people know that we won that contract several years ago, both for 300 Win Mag, 338 Norma, all their sniper ammunition. We're making it. And so a lot of those learnings about accuracy and different things, we translated that into hunting ammunition. So we had to make really accurate and really powerful hunting ammunition. Our optics have been tremendous. We launched a few years ago something called the BDX system, which gave hunters sort of a smart way to be more effective at longer ranges on animals and have, hold and drop and those kinds of things factored into their optics. Or you could just buy a plain optic if you wanted to, but we had a lot of things. And of course, suppressors for those who can and like to hunt with suppressors. And so one of the things when I came to SIG and Ron Cohen, our CEO, and I talked about was, if we're going to do something, let's not dabble. Because I think a lot of companies tend to want to say, okay, I'm going to launch this one thing and see if it does well, and then I'll do more. And I think, we we try not to do that here. We try to say if we're going to do something at SIG, let's go all in. And we haven't been as comprehensive in hunting as we would like to be, but I don't think anybody would say we're dabbling in it, especially now that we've begun to expand our calibers. But no, I think whether it's military contracts in the U.S. or domestically, whether it's concealed carry, whether it's whatever category that we just talked about, we knew we needed to be in the hunting category. If we were going to be a comprehensive company, we had to be in that, and so it's been very exciting for us to be in it. I'll just go ahead and preempt the question I'm going to get about shotguns, because we get asked that question all the time. When is, we've done everything else, when is SIG going to do a shotgun? And it's definitely something that's been on our drawing board. But again, shotguns are a pretty, from my 5 years at Mossberg and just knowledge throughout the industry, in ways it's a bit of a utilitarian tool, and it's hard to improve on that, whether it's a semi-automatic or a pump or a brake action or whatever it may be. What's the innovation? And so that's what our engineers are playing with now, is what, if we're going to do something in the shotgun category, what's it going to be, which will take us to the next level in hunting. Because quite honestly, some of the innovations that we have looked at are actually hunting shotguns and not necessarily tactical. And, most people might think, well, of course SIG's going to do a tactical shotgun, right? But some of the things that we've looked at would actually be more valuable in the hunting category. So it's absolutely something we felt strongly about. We knew we needed to be in it. I mean, if you walk around our facilities here, not a lot of people know everything at SIG is now made in America. Guns and suppressors are all made in New Hampshire. The German factory doesn't even exist anymore. We do have a facility in Switzerland that is part of our operation that makes guns for the Swiss military in Switzerland. But most of the guns, all the handguns, rifles, those kinds of things are all coming from here into Europe. But our ammunition is made in Arkansas. We just opened a almost 300,000 square foot building to help us supply the U.S. military. Our optics facilities out in Oregon. So it's an American company. When you walk around these factories this time, in fact, when I walked in this morning, there were 3 guys standing in the hallway comparing pictures of the bucks they shot this weekend, either in Maine or New Hampshire here, one guy in Connecticut. So it's a hunting culture. And so we kind of knew that. We knew we had a lot of expertise, even though all around this building, in our engineering facilities and here where our product managers sit, there's a lot of discussion about the defensive products, the military products, but the casual conversations are all about hunting. And so why not take that expertise and pour it into the products? And so we've been able to do that. And as feverish as that is here in New Hampshire, you go to our facilities in Arkansas and our optics team out in Oregon. I mean, don't bother calling anybody like, I think it's like the last week of September in Oregon, because they're all gone elk hunting in Western Oregon. And so, or whatever week that is, they go. But it's just part of the fiber of this company. We have a third of our employees are veterans, and I think that's one thing that drives what SIG is with the military and defense side. And then the culture here on any given time during hunting season, it's just that, everybody's abuzz about what they shot last weekend or on their last trip or whatever. So it's definitely a big part of our culture. I think people probably see us, German heritage, handguns, and all the things. We're just like almost any other, good American company where people are walking around during hunting season talking about what they shot last weekend or whatever, this morning or whatever it may be. So spring turkey hunting and all those things. So it's a pretty cool situation that a lot of things at SIG, the military stuff and the hunting stuff, are really driven by passion. It's not necessarily, we're not publicly traded. Our CEO doesn't, even though he certainly drives us to results. He's definitely more about doing things the right way, doing things passionately, and doing things that we believe in. So I think it's really important here that hunting became part of that culture here at SIG.
Well, I think y'all will do well into that going into that hunting arena, simply because you're known for building a premium product. You've had that, over 100-year history of doing that. So I would say it'll do well. I would have no qualms at all about picking one up off the shelf and knowing I can go hunt with that and it's going to do what I want it to do. And I can't say that about every brand. So interesting though, you mentioned about the hunting culture. It's like I had an old boss one time that used to tell me, he said, you can't call in sick, but you can call in hunting. And I'm like, you're going to have a lot more out days for me if you let me do that than just let me take the sick days. But oh well.
Yeah, the quality is part of the culture here because there's been a lot of demand because for the military we launched the 6.8 hybrid ammunition. It has the steel cap and it turns a 308 size bullet into a 300 Win Mag on the battlefield, which is a huge win for our military. It's what they wanted. They wanted more lethality. They wanted the ability to penetrate new body armor that the world has developed and so forth. So that was a big piece of it. But there was a lot of demand saying, when can I get a 277 Sig Fury in the hunting caliber or hunting rifle? And part of the issue was that bullet is so fast that we had a bit of a hard time stabilizing it to put together good groups at 100 yards. I mean, the bullet really wasn't built for that in the defensive world. It was built, for sort of 3-inch accuracy, if you will, and a lot of power. But in the hunting world, if you go sight your hunting rifle in and it's not sub MOA, you don't feel like you have a quality hunting rifle. And we were right around that 1 MOA, maybe a little over it, but it wasn't there. And we said, Sig Sauer cannot release a rifle that's going to not have a sub MOA group at 100 yards. Now, as a marketing guy, what I didn't know how to explain to the market is when that bullet travels 300 yards and 500 yards and 1,000 yards, not that you'd be shooting animals at 1,000 yards, but it's very hard to explain ballistically, but that bullet is so fast. It's going 200 to 300, even more than that in some cases, feet per second faster than a standard round of that size. When it travels past 100 yards, that 300-yard group is probably going to be tighter than that 1-inch, not probably, it is going to be tighter than that 1-inch sub-MOA group at 100. At 300 yards, it sounds really weird, and that's part of the reason we didn't want to launch the rifle. A 1.2 MOA at 100 at that speed was going to be fine, knowing what the MOA was going to be at 300 yards. But I didn't know how to explain that as a marketer, so we didn't even want to deal with that until we just said, nope, that's not good enough. Let's keep working on it, make sure that rifle is a sub-MOA gun. And then we can say, oh, and guess what? It's way more accurate at 300 or 500 yards than your typical round, because we just had a hard time getting a 308 size bullet, and I always keep one handy. It's got this steel cap on the end, which is where the rocket boost comes from to make it the speed that it is. But the fact that bullet has the same ballistic capability as 300 Win Mag was a really difficult engineering task to achieve. So we just wouldn't release it though without it being what it needed to be from Sig Sauer.
Well, I tell you what, you mentioned earlier 25 million new gun owners, and then you talked a little bit just now about marketing. And I was excited that you guys got into the hunting market because I've always been impressed with your marketing skills. You get it. I mean, trust me, a lot of people are not taking advantage of, the new customers that are out there and not explaining their product line correctly, and certainly not preaching outside the choir. And that's one of the things that I definitely impressed with what you've done. I mean, even back in 16 or something, I think you guys sponsored Major League Fishing to try to, cross over some participation. But with your hunting stuff, you've had, I think, big competitions that you put on social media, and you bring in folks. I think you had pro athletes. I think you had MMA. And you get it, right? We can't continue to preach to the 20 million of us. We've got a lot of interested people on the fence, but you're helping to get them into the field by doing those new marketing techniques.
Yeah, I think it was definitely important, to market to the core, especially when we were growing. But you're referring to Hunter Games, I think, and we had a couple of years and we spent a lot of money, but we brought in football players, baseball players, UFC fighters, and these weren't no names. These were Hoist Gracie, Cowboy Cerrone, Justin Gaethje. I mean, these were Bullet Valentina. We brought in people from actors. We brought in motorcycle racers, gold medal X Games snowboarders. It was a wide variety of people, 30 different kinds of celebrities and influencers and those kinds of things. Jack Carr was part of those Hunter Games, and we did some math, and both of those events we reached over 30 million people through their social channels, and they were such a diverse group. And they were groups that we knew were interested in guns. The UFC market is a good gun market, motorcycle racing, certainly athletics, and just all the things that we were touching. we were getting to a lot of very unique people, and that's now grown into a lot of other things. I mean, we were in the podcasting world. We were early adopters of Sean Ryan, and now look at what Sean Ryan's podcast has become. I think he's in the top 5 podcasts holistically, not in our category. Of course, everybody knows Rogan is number 1, and we've been featured on Rogan. We haven't been on Rogan's as Sig yet, but we've had a number of people that love Sig on Rogan, and
it's just one step up. I think they're just above us, right, John? I think
they're number 1. We're number 2, I think.
Slightly more listeners in this show. It's why it's so impressive to be on this show right now. But no, it's Rogan. We know what guns he shoots, and we know the friends of ours he's had on his show, and so that's always good. So we got into podcasting, and we're right now. We're negotiating with a major motorcycle racer and motorcycle company that's not afraid of guns. Some of these companies that they don't, it's mind-boggling to me how you can have a demographic that is 100% about guns. That's why we love Major League Fishing. 83% of fishermen are gun people as well or something, and we knew that demographic, and they knew that demographic, so they weren't scared of it. You talk to some companies, and I've had some experiences even prior to Sig when I was at Smith & Wesson about a major American car and truck maker, and we had a Smith & Wesson edition truck all done. It was all done, and a high-ranking official in that auto company shot it down because we were a gun company, and we were like, this is one of the top couple of truck companies in the world, and I think a lot of people that buy trucks are gun advocates and hunting advocates and all those things, and it was shot down. So we can't be as pervasive as we would like to be because we're guns, and we're just not going to be able to do that in some cases. So we just keep poking and pushing and trying to find those places where we know people aren't afraid of guns or not afraid of talking about them. We check when we have an ambassador, like for example, we need to reach more people, and Steve Ranella from Mediators was when we had the opportunity to sign up with that organization. And knowing what they do from a media standpoint, it wasn't cheap, but we took it because we're working with the biggest hunting platform on the planet. No offense to this podcast, but Ranella probably reaches a few more people.
He's done a good job recruiting outside the choir as well. So
yes, he's number 3, right? It's Rogan, us, Ranella, right?
Right, Ranella's right behind you guys, But we've looked for those people who reach unique audiences, and right now we're negotiating with a couple more mainstream personalities who aren't afraid of guns, and that is another top 5 podcast that we're looking at to be part of. And so, but we know we're not going to achieve the goals that we want to achieve, from a growth standpoint, a brand standpoint, but importantly, expanding shooting sports. I mean, those new shooters and programs. You mentioned our marketing. In last year, 2023, we actually did 12 matches. And then this past year, we did 24. This year, we're going to expand it to over 50 of our Shoot Sig matches. So these are competitive shooting matches that you can bring your own guns or not. You can reserve a time to come. So it's only a couple hours of your day, not a whole weekend. And you can go and you can shoot a 3-stage match. And it's very easy. You get benefits from joining. You get all kinds of things. We make it kind of fun when you go out there to have our product experts out there ask questions, and it's called Shoot Sig, and it's a very simple way for people to say, well, I don't want to have to go buy holsters and mag pouches and high-speed gear stuff. You can just go out there. It's shoot from the low ready. So that's one expansion we've done, and then also in the last several months we've launched something called Sig Connect, which is an app on your phone that has a tremendous amount of content, that has training, it has sort of content-based stuff, interest stuff, it has just stuff for viewing pleasure, it has stuff for tips and drills, it has stuff from experts, it has a bunch of different categories, but we also have smart targets, everything from sort of electronic cardboard that'll give you feedback right back to your phone. It'll tell you how you're doing, or you can go and you can actually, you can take a phone and you can set it up in a stand and point it down range at a paper target, and it'll give you feedback right to your phone, and it'll show you your group size, it'll tell you your splits, it'll tell you all those things. You can play games on it. We have multiple games, and then we have there's paper, there's cardboard, and then the last piece of the pie for our Sig Connect piece is that there will be steel targets. So if you're a hunter and you want to go out and sight your gun in at 100 yards, but you don't want to use binoculars and tear up paper or whatever, you can literally just sight your gun in on a steel target and look at your group size on your phone. You can do it on the cardboard or the paper. The focus on the paper doesn't go out to 100 yards, so you need to do it on the cardboard or the steel that's coming. But we brought influencers into that, and our Sig Connect app is growing exponentially. And our Rose program is growing exponentially. Our Legion program is over 180,000 members of people, and you had to buy the gun to join the Legion. So that's 180,000 people that not only bought one of our more expensive lines of guns, but also took the time to join the club. They come to our Camp Legions. They come to our Legion events. They follow our products. Many Legion members buy more than one Sig gun. So it's been about trying to find engagement programs for shooters, getting people that don't shoot as regularly as we'd like them to shoot more. The average spending per 100 million people who own a gun in America is $4. So that tells us that if you average ammunition across all people that own a gun, they're shooting half a box of 9mm a year. And that's not training. That means a lot of other people are buying a lot more ammunition. But getting to other categories, launching programs for training, expanding Sig Academy throughout the country, all those things. We spend so much of our time on that and not just trying to sell guns and make guns, which we do. I think we do that okay too. But it really has been about getting guns in people's hands, expanding the market, and making sure that people are getting as many opportunities as they possibly can to hunt, to shoot, to compete, to be part of a community, if you will, like our Rose for Women or our Legion member project. So it's been a pretty diverse effort to try to get the expanded categories like you referred to, Jim.
Well, I, for one, really like the concept of, a Sig customer doesn't end at the cash register. You're offering them a ton of services post sale that I think people need. They may not know they need it, but they need they need the training, they need the exercises, they need the apps and all that. And a lot of that stuff's fun. That if they're having fun, while they're out learning, they're going to learn quicker. They're going to be more interested, more engaged. So tell us a little bit about. I know with the Sig Experience, there are some venues where within a retail store you have a Sig store within the store. That's kind of appealing too. I don't have to go search the shelves to find the products I want. It's like all the Sig stuff's right here in one place, and I can go get what I want and don't have to mess with this other stuff. So tell us a little about that.
Yeah, I mean, we started that program a few years ago, and we picked the numbers just a little over 50. So just all throughout America, and we try not to put we've had a lot of requests. We could do more, but we've tried to keep that club pretty exclusive. And so we have just over 50 what we call elite dealers. And so when you walk in that store, they had to have a minimum of 400 square feet, but we've got one that's as big as 1,600 square feet. I mean, it's as big as a small store in and of itself. But yeah, somewhere between 400 and 1,600 square feet. We put the flooring in, we put the shelving and the cabinets and TV screens and programs and different things that they get, benefits that they get for being an elite dealer. So we wanted to take the opportunity where if there was enough excitement from some of our largest dealers to have a Sig specific store in store. We even had one store that was able to acquire the location next door to him in a strip center, and he made that a standalone Sig store. So he had his gun store, and then he put a hole through the wall, and next door was a dedicated Sig shop. So sort of the same store, but they had two different exterior doors, and one was all one location. That strip center was all Sig. So it's been a lot of fun putting that together. And then actually during the COVID time period where we didn't have to work too hard to sell guns, we were pretty much selling every gun we could make. We took that time to take all the learnings we had from our elite dealers and ideas from all over the country. And here in New Hampshire, we put together the Sig Experience Center, which is a 6,000 square foot retail store. It's probably as nice a gun store as any in the world that I can think of. a museum. I referred to it earlier. It's got a museum. It's got a conference center with a large conference room and other meeting rooms. It's got a state-of-the-art range. It's got a little cafe in it, and sits right at the entrance of Sig Academy. So if you haven't been to Sig Academy in the last 3 or 4 years, it used to just look like a wooded road that pulled into where Sig Academy was, where we did all of our training. But that was not open to the public. That was just classes, and both professional classes as well as civilian classes. But now you can come to the Sig Academy and go into the Sig Experience Center and have a retail experience or whatever. So to your point, everywhere and every place that we can interact with a consumer in any way possible. And you said it earlier, John, it doesn't just end at the register. I mean, that's where our job begins before they get to the register, but then we view almost equal parts marketing, if not more marketing after the register, because, in a lot of ways, Sig is not a cheap brand. We may not be your first gun. And so when you make that commitment to buy a Sig, we want you to buy the right gun. We want you to come back. A lot of people, when they buy a Sig, they come back and they get others. We've learned that from Legion members who own multiple Sig guns. So yeah, we want to make sure that retail experience, the post-purchase experience, all those things are as good as they can possibly be for our customers, and to have that interaction with our brand.
I think you've nailed it. When I work with, John and the state wildlife agencies and the NGOs, we talk a lot about the 3 R's: recruit new people, retain the ones we have, and reactivate lapsed participants. And then when I talk to the industry, sometimes I talk about the 3 I's, right? To get those new participants, they need information, which you provide. They need an invitation, which, you're doing through your social media and your partners there. And then, there's the third I kind of split. It's, you can incentivize things, or you make them feel included. And you guys are doing that. Like you mentioned the Rose, for women, and it's you feel included. Like the women I know that are a part of it, I mean, they're all in, right? I mean, so tell us a little bit about, the ladies of Rose.
Yeah. I mean, it was something that for a lot of years in the industry, we thought if we put some paint on a gun and made it pink, it'd be a women's gun. And we learned that was not what women wanted. And I don't think in a lot of ways the industry knew what women wanted. And one of the reasons that we didn't know what women wanted is because people that look like me and you two were the ones that were coming up with the programs. And so what was wonderful about 3 years ago, maybe almost 4 now, Lena Michalek, our professional shooter, who's like the Pied Piper of women on her social channels and a lot of ways that she interacts with people. She sat in my office. She said, "I'm not saying I'm done competing, because I'm certainly not." And she's just won a world championship, so she's certainly still competing at a high level. But she said, "I want to do something different. I want to do something. I've been teaching since I was a teenager with her mom back Babes with Bullets, an old women's program that she used to be part of." And she said, "I want to take all the things that I've learned through my shooting career, and I want to empower women." And we didn't even know what that looked like back then, but she knew she wanted to try something. And so, fast forward a couple of years, and we had the Rose. It wasn't, of course, when we launched, it wasn't called the Rose program. It was just going to be a women's program led by Lena. But we put women marketers, we put women product managers, women project managers, women engineers. In fact, I went into one of the meetings one day, and it was so unique that I actually had our graphics team put a camera in the corner and film some of their meetings to show this is not a facade of women. There were really women sitting in meetings planning all of this. And hey, guess what? Women planned the program, and it's been very successful. But, we have a social network that's almost 25,000 women now. We've been doing something called Rose Retreats, and these are much like our Camp Legions, where you have sort of this upscale weekend, and Lena comes, and we've done them in Boca Raton. We just launched one at Hotel Del Coronado in San Diego, and it sold out in hours, all the spots. And these are not cheap. These are $5,000 weekends to go, and we make it a little bougie and a little unique. But there's also women on the range, but there's also women having a concealed carry fashion show, because women have to carry a lot of ways that men can't or don't, and they have different bodies than us and those kinds of things. And so they have a concealed carry fashion show. They have when we went to Nashville, they did kicker dancing in the evenings, and they went to Dolly Parton's bar and one evening, and because the women really, and one night they have a formal, and they put on nice attire and they go out and they have a sort of a prom night, if you will, and so it just has resonated with women. But once again, I don't know if you've ever seen one of the actual boxes, but it's a really nice black box. It comes with the gun that has the rose gold accents on the black. It comes with a Vaultec safe, also black with rose gold accents. It comes with a mag loader. It comes with a little lace black bag full of dummy rounds. So if a woman doesn't know how to load a gun, you can do what's probably the most important thing in the box, which is a 3x5 card. It's a picture of Lena, and it basically says, why don't you start wherever you are in your firearms journey, watch this. And you scan a QR code, and it takes you to over 25 videos and growing. We add to it all the time. Everything from I've never been to a gun store, what do I do? I've never been to a range, I don't know how to take my gun down. What if I'm pushing my shots left? What if I'm pushing my shots down? It has these little 3 to 5 minute videos from Lena explaining a bunch of different stuffs about safety or shooting or interacting with a gun. And so to me, the same thing. It's not just buying the gun in the safe. It's that little card in the box that women can go in, and they can look at a library of information that we're adding to all the time to say, okay, what do I need to learn today? Because we also learn that most of us, when we go to the range, we're like, I know what I'm doing. I'm better than you, and I'm going to go do what I do, and I'm not going to listen to anybody else. That's I'm being a little facetious, but that's kind of the way men are wired. But has anybody ever tried to take your wife to the range and teach her to shoot? It's like, it's not the way it works, because they want more information. They want to be taught differently than we are. And we just learned a lot about what it takes to market to women because we let women do the marketing. And it's just been so successful. And, to watch how proud Lena is of the program and to see what she's done with it has just been such a fun process to watch.
Well, I tell you what, we covered a lot. I knew we had a lot to get to, but I appreciate, your time. I appreciate you guys continuing to write those big checks on a quarterly basis, ×3, for ammo, handguns, long guns, and, supporting conservation the way you really are. That folks, that's what we're doing, telling people without SIG writing those checks and without SIG reaching out to new customers and stuff, the future is a much brighter because of, organizations, that involve the industry and new people. So thank you for doing all that stuff. And just let us know where people can find information, what your social tags are, website, that type of stuff.
Yeah, go to sigsauer.com. Down at the bottom, all of our social channels are down there, but it's pretty easy. Just go to sigsauer.com. And, we're just happy to have people engage with us. Sig Connect is another way. If you go to either the Apple store or the Android store, it's out there. But we love to interact with people to share what we do and what our passion is.
Awesome. Well, Tom, thank you so much for being on. This has been very enlightening. I'm a huge fan of your products, and I'm even a bigger fan, knowing that you really are a turnkey operation on handling your customers, because that's important for folks like me anyway. But thank you for what you're doing. Thank y'all for the excise tax that you're paying for conservation. We hope you consider it a good investment, because we certainly do. And keep up the good work.
Yeah, we absolutely consider it. It's almost, I don't know if I was to say we like this tax, but if there's such a thing, I think we do like it, because we know, it's institutional, it's built in. And so it's awesome that what it goes for and what it does. So John, I appreciate it. Jim, I appreciate y'all having me on.
Change the word tax to investment, because that's really what it is. It's an investment.
Portion of the proceeds.
Yeah. So, but well, thank you again, Tom, and to our listeners, thanks for listening. Be sure to listen to our other episodes, like our pages, and subscribe as well. That helps us out and helps us produce good content. Thanks for being here, and we'll see you in the woods or on the water.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Connecting with Conservation podcast. Please do us a favor and tell your buddies, friends, family, and others about what you've learned here today. If you like what you heard, come on back anytime and listen to another episode of the Connecting with Conservation podcast.